Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next podcast episode in the Kitchen Design Essentials podcast series from Your Forever Home, the podcast. Now, this is episode 9 out of the Kitchen Design Essentials series, and boy, oh boy, are we covering so much ground. I'm getting some fabulous responses from people, which particular aspects they found really, really interesting, and how it's actually changed some of their decisions just because they've had the information. Now that is music to my ears, because obviously if the information that I'm sharing is allowing you to make informed decisions and some really good clarification on what you're doing, then it's being done for all the right reasons. So I'm really glad to get that feedback, because it just it gives me such energy to keep going and providing you with more information. Now, we're a long way from finished. I was actually reviewing what's coming up just this morning, and there is so much more coming up, all the little intricacies, and we've got some more guests to join us as well in the future. So stay tuned, because we are not done with kitchens. So today I'm actually going to be talking to you about a really, really important topic. It's one that is often overlooked. Joinery design and internal elevations. And this is going to go into a lot of detail. We've just had so many inquiries about this, and I think people feel that it is not an investment worth making. And I'm here to share with you why it is. And also just so many mistakes and issues that can occur just because these internal elevations are not done. So I feel that there's a really big misconception in the market about what internal elevations provide you, why they're so valuable and critical to your build and the outcome in your home. And so this whole episode is going to just give you the information around what the advantages are and what are some of the things that can happen that are not going to be good for you if you don't actually invest in internal elevations. So really, the internal elevations lead to the outcome and the success of your home because of the detail that they provide. They really are the key component that make a difference. They're critical for so many reasons, and that's what I'm going to outline for you today. And if you don't have them, it's almost like instructing your builder to navigate without a map. Having a floor plan is one thing, which is an aerial view, but actually having an internal elevation, which is the front-on view, is totally different. So if you would actually like to give your builder the map of how to build your home, internal elevations are critical. If you don't have them, it can also lead to expensive mistakes, but also design disappointments that could have been avoided. Functionality areas that could have absolutely been completely different. The outcome could have been completely different had you had the internal elevations. There's also confusion around what cabinetry drawings are and what internal elevations are. And cabinetry drawings are just that. The joinery drawings are just that. They are cabinetry. That is what your vanity is going to look like, what your kitchen is going to look like. It's nothing else. And so and internal elevations are actually providing everything, not just your joinery design. So just to get those differences really clear, cabinetry joinery drawings are the same thing, and they are just that. Internal elevations are showing everything when you're looking at that wall front on. All right, so let's get into what are internal elevations. They are drawings that show the detail of a wall as if you're looking at it front on. So whereby floor plans actually give you an aerial view, internal elevations are giving you that front on view. So just think about that for a minute. What do I see when I'm looking at something from an aerial view? And what do I look at something when I'm doing front on? And if you can think about the floor plan of your home, and then of course you get external elevations of your home, which show the window placement, how high they off the floor, what your roof look like, what's the cladding. That is exactly what we're talking about, but from an internal view. So just think about what the difference is with an internal elevation, looking at something front on versus looking at something from an aerial view. So absorb that for a minute, and then we'll go into the detail. Typically, you'll have 4 elevations per room showing each wall, because what's on each wall is going to be different than just looking at it down. So you can see exactly what is going to be on that wall when you face it. It details the size, placement, design and construction notes. It includes detail about your joinery design. Where is it going to be on a wall? Is it floating? Is it on the floor? The placement of taps, your tile layout, the extent of the tiling, maybe any bathroom accessories, for example, hand towel rails, toilet roll holders, any other sorts of things that might be in your kitchen, your splashback extent, the shower niche, size and finish, your handle details, and anything else that is visible front on. That is an absolute minute snippet of what goes in. The floor plan is an aerial view, so that gives you a totally different perspective than if you're looking at something front on. And so just take that in. That's the difference between an internal elevation. So if you're only working off your floor plans, which boy, oh boy, do I see so many times, and I also then see what the outcome is with that. If you're working off the floor plan, how can you or your builder see what is what and what they're actually building or designing? So there's two things in that. One is, how do you know what the finished product is? What are you getting if there's no elevation? That's dangerous. But how does your builder have any idea and the cabinet maker have any idea what they're building for you? Because they're just looking at a floor plan. Are you having cupboards? Are you having drawers? How deep are they? How wide are they? Is it floating? Is it not? How high is your kicker? What's the splashback extent? Where does it start and where it is finish? What's your tiling extent in the bathroom? Where does it start? Where does it finish? Is there a skirting tile? Is it floor to ceiling tiling? What's your benchtop thickness? Are there any waterfall edges? Are there shadow lines? The extent of the splashback, feature walls, feature tiles. Is there any overhead cabinetry or shelving? What's the thickness and the placement of those shelves? What about fireplace details? Where does the fireplace sit on the wall? Is it recessed in? What's its location? What's its height? Is there a surround? The location of heating and cooling ducts. This will not be shown on a floor plan. This can only be shown in an elevation because you're looking at it front on. So some homeowners, and this is where the danger is, some homeowners feel that they can easily instruct the cabinet maker or the builder on site. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be able to, I know what I want, and I know that I can tell the cabinet maker what I want. But where's the design input? How do you know that you've got all the information you need? Do you know about all the different types of cabinetry internals that could be used? Don't be led necessarily by the cabinet makers. They are a trade in themselves. Some of them are highly skilled and they've got amazing design ideas. But don't be led just by the cabinet maker, because they may not be thinking about, they'll definitely be thinking about the end result in terms of what it looks like. But what about all the functionality? And this is really specifically around kitchens too. What about all the other design elements that need to be thought about in terms of how you're storing, where you're storing, what functionality, what's the triangle? How are you going to access different things? How do you need to, store all your products, and where's everything going to go? I don't really believe that that is always done when we're just dealing with a cabinet maker. And I certainly don't mean to give them a disservice, because we work with some incredible cabinet makers, but even they say, we want the drawings because we're not designers. They have input, which is awesome. And we always use the input from our cabinet makers. However, they themselves say, I'm not a designer, I build cabinetry. So keep that in mind. So if you are thinking that you can instruct the cabinet maker and the builder on site, it can lead to lots of issues. It's late in the process. There's miscommunication. There can be miscommunication. And who's doing the designing? How far down the stage? Generally, the cabinet maker gets involved in the project when the frame's up. We've just had this happen with a client of ours. The frame's up. They're not really happy with the kitchen. This is a variation. This is where you start, burning money, because there are things that have to change because you realise then and there it's not right. It also involves a lot of time being on site. You may be working full time. How are you going to give it the detail and the time that it needs to get it right? And when we're talking about forever homes, which is always what I come back to here, you're going to live with this for a long time. You need to make sure you get it right. All right. So why are internal elevations so important? They allow you to understand how the proposed spaces and rooms will look. How can you know what they're going to look like without having something that you can see front on? You're just looking at an aerial view, and that's layout, but it's not giving you any idea visually what that may actually end up looking like. It helps you visualize, and it assists you in making decisions on locations of cupboards, windows, doors, power points. Generally, when we're doing our internal elevations, there's always a knock-on effect. There's another decision that it impacts. And so if we're doing this at floor plan stage, you haven't started building, you've got the time to discuss it. What are some of the options? Explore with the builder. Can we do this? Can we do that? And so there's always a knock-on effect. You're able to make an informed decision because you're looking at it and you're able to see what's going to happen. By knowing the position of all the critical items in a room, it allows you to make decisions about other dependent items, wall finishes, the extent of the tiling around a bath, the sink or a window. You're able to make all those decisions up front. You've not got any area for error because you've already made those decisions before the builder starts. Lack of good internal elevations leads to unnecessary guesswork on site for the builder. The owner, that's you, and the contractors. Everyone's looking for answers on how to build and what are these detail and certain elements of your home. How are we going to finish this off? And are we doing mitered edges here, or are we doing angles? We've got no idea. It's not detailed anywhere. It's not going to be in the floor plan. Far too often, we see people with floor plans only showing the aerial view of the cabinetry layout and internal elevations with minimal design, i.e. there's no really clear measurements, there's no detail about the handling, where are the power points going, and it just opens up a room for error, misinterpretation, which I see happen so much, and a misunderstanding about the expectations of what the final outcome is. Don't put yourself in the position where there's so much open and really you can't be there every day on site to be managing every detail, and you're making rash decisions anyway. Often we see as well cabinetry that's fitting a space rather than actually being designed for the space. So there's no design consideration about the functionality or the needs for what that space needs to be, and also how the owners need to use that space. So that's when we're taking into consideration lifestyle and how those lifestyle considerations and how those spaces are going to be used. So rather than just getting cabinetry to fit a void, which is what it is, it's at frame stage, there's a void there, we need to fill it with cabinetry. That's easy. That's the easy part. The difficult part and the analysis part is where it's actually being designed to fit that space. It really is a costly exercise to get wrong, which, boy, oh boy, I feel like I almost feel like I'm lecturing here and I don't want to, but it's just so much to take in. So what are some of the advantages? Think about these for a moment in terms of investing in good elevations, internal elevations. It allows you to manage, assess and tweak and finalize exactly what's going to be built before it's built. You can see it. Oh, actually, I don't want that drawer like that. I want it on the other side. Oh, I don't need it that deep because I'm going to put something else in that drawer, or I'm going to need a PowerPoint there. And hang on a minute, I can now see the difference between having a wall oven and having an oven underneath and the impact that's going to have on a space. I really thought I was going to have a wall oven, but actually now that I can visualize what that looks like in another way, I'm actually going to go for the oven underneath. You have got visualization to make really informed decisions. You get fixed price quoting. Now, what a bonus is that? Rather than just your builder guessing from a floor plan what he's actually building, he's able to quote a fixed price quote because he can see, and the cabinet maker can see exactly what's going on, exactly where the plumbing needs to be. There's no guesswork here. He can give you a fixed price quote. Minimal variations, no variations, keeps you on budget. Building accuracy. The builder knows exactly what he needs to build, and he knows exactly what's expected of him. He can see the detail, and he's not going to need to guess or assume anything because all that work has been done in advance. There's less stress for everyone, but more importantly, you. All the details are finalised. You've been able to make informed decisions. You're not being rushed to make decisions and being asked of things on site that actually you have no idea about. You're able to minimise the overwhelm. It's been decided before the build even starts. And a big one, it's mitigating costs. You're able to make changes if needed before the building starts. That's what I was talking about before in terms of being able to see the impact of certain things, rather than it being at frame stage and you're thinking, oh, I don't really have much choice here. I feel like I've just got to have it like that. You can actually decide that well in advance. You're mitigating mistakes because everything is detailed in the drawings, which means all parties know what's going on. And you've had time to explore the options. You've had time to discuss it with your partner and anyone else that's involved in your project. And you've also had the options to explore different things and ideas and thinking with your designer and looking at the best option for you. It's certainly going to save you a lot of time, because the builder, if he doesn't have these, is going to be ringing you every 5 minutes saying, well, what am I doing here? And what do you want here? And I need you on site because this is not making sense. What a headache. That's what leads to stress and overwhelm, because you might not even have the answers. The other thing is, it's looking at your project holistically. And you'll have heard me talk about this before in terms of having people working to the master plan rather than having all these trades and all these specialists working in silos. When you've got an interior designer working on your internal elevations, or whoever's doing them for you, they are obviously, well, not obviously, but they will need to work and liaise with the builder and the architect to make sure if we covered off this detail, and hang on, can we do this? Is that a solid wall? Can we get rid of that solid wall to put in a cavity slider? And if not, what are our other options? Where does the door go? Do we have a hinge door? Do we have no door? So we're looking at things holistically, and it means that all the people that are working on your project are working together to your master plan. So the internal elevations show the impact on other spaces so that you're able to have the conversations and make the tweaks and changes for your best outcome. So as I was saying earlier, some actually believe that they can instruct the builder and the cabinet maker on all the joinery details, and generally that happens on site. But think about how much money you can save. People believe that if they're doing it like that, and we've got the floor plan, and yeah, I'm pretty sure we know what we want, we're going to save the money and not invest in internal elevations, because we're going to be able to deal with that on site. You need to be really confident with that. You need to be really confident that you've got all your design stuff sorted out. You need to be really confident with your materials, and you need to be really confident that you really know what you need to know to do this. Because instructing them at build stage, when the frame is already completed, it has a knock-on effect for the joinery and other areas such as windows, your doors, and generally it's too late to change those. So you're already compromising. I know that I talked about this in one of the webinars I had, the masterclass on kitchen design in particular, and how at internal elevation stage, the window wasn't centered on the joinery, because at that stage, the architect didn't know exactly where the joinery was, the extent of the joinery. Sure, the kitchen was laid out in the floor plan, but we didn't understand at that stage what the joinery was going to look like. But once the joinery was done with the internal elevations, we knew then that the window had to change. But if that's already done at frame stage, and you're now going to do the joinery, it's too late. It's too late to make those changes. Or yeah, you can make them, but boy, is that going to be expensive. So how much money is it going to cost in variations and rework if it's not turned out how you want it? The example I just gave you. And how much dissatisfaction are you going to have when your kitchen and bathrooms are not as you wanted them to be? And how much money will you have sunk into building this forever home and this forever kitchen or bathroom, and it's not actually turned out how you wanted? So I think here, we really need to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, and that includes the internal elevations. Please don't think that the additional investment you're making for the internal elevations is wasted. If anything, it's going to save you so much money down the track. The builder's going to love you. The cabinet maker's going to love you. All these people, you're just going to develop the relationship because you look organised, you feel organised. And isn't that worth something as well? And you know that you're mitigating mistakes because everything's been thought about. Now, I think it'd be a bit of a disservice at this stage for me not to explore with you and explain how we go about internal elevations, because I want you to understand the process so that you can see in your mind, because of course you're not seeing me, and feel how that's going to make a difference. So the first thing that we actually do is, we start with a briefing session, and that's really to get inside your head. What do you want? What's important to you? What functionality do you need? And boy, oh boy, are we big on functionality. What's the look and feel? And so then combined with that, we actually provide you with what we call a deep dive needs assessment. We have it for every room. We have it for the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry, your living spaces, your master robe, where any of these internal elevations are going to go. And this prompts you to think about, what do I need? How am I going to store my shoes? Where do I want my shoes to be stored? Am I going to need them in the wardrobe? Are they going to be out towards the garage because we don't wear shoes inside? Where do I need to store my plastics? Where do I need to... how often do I need to get out my cast iron pans? Do I need them accessible on a daily basis? Or are there things that I use for Christmas that can be stored up high? So we're going to get a really good understanding from you about how you live and what your lifestyle is, so that we can then design around that. Now, this is not common. This is a really thorough needs assessment all around functionality. But in those deep dive documents, it's actually providing you with the thinking and the discussion that you can have in advance to then provide us with that information, because we've got a lot of prompts in there about all your appliances. Have you got this, and this, and where's it going to be stored? And that then, do we need to have a breakfast area? Do we want that in an appliance cupboard? Would you prefer it in a walk-in pantry? All those things will come out in that needs assessment. And so then what we do is that we then analyse the brief and the deep dive needs assessment documents, and we can then consider the space. And then we start designing with that functionality in mind, and the flow that has to happen with those spaces as well, and how we're going to be able to fit your needs. Now, we also have clients that have got their wish list. Oh, I really want to be able to have a study nook, and I really want to be able to have an area where I can sit down and do my makeup. And I'd love to have an area where clothing that I only wear once is separated from my normal wardrobe stuff. And look, again, we're assessing the space, and we might be able to come up with all your wishes, and that's where we feel really, really good. Or it may be, look, we can't fit this in, but we can have this, but then we might have to forego this. Isn't that great to have that discussion up front, rather than when you're on site going, oh, I don't have enough space? But once we know what you want, we go about working that out. And then there's that collaboration approach, and you get the design rationale around, why it is designed the way it is. So you understand the thinking that's gone into why it is the way it is. And more often than not, we'll show you two options so that you can see the impact. What's the impact of having a wall oven versus an undermount oven? How's that going to affect your prep area? How's it going to affect the aesthetic? So all those things are considered so that you can make that informed decision. So it's easy to fill a space with cabinetry, but it's the thinking behind the design that sets homes apart and makes them function in the best way possible. And for those of you who followed me for a while, you'll know that functionality for me is just king. The functionality is so important. Something can look amazing, but if it doesn't work well, it's just a waste. Design is about really good functionality. So we always provide our design rationale. We have, detailed conversations around that. We consult back and forwards in terms of, is this going to work best for you? We highlight why the design is the way it is. And it's great for you to understand that, because then you know why this may be the best solution, and why we feel that that's going to work best to get all the functionality components that you need in. So it arms you with information that gives you informed choice. And that's, for me, is what we're about. We want you to make informed decisions. So don't leave it to chance. Internal elevations are one of the most critical investments that you'll make in your forever home to get it right, and to stop you having to live with something that actually wasn't quite right. And you're going to live with that for a long time. So there's a blog that I wrote on internal elevations and joinery design a few weeks back. That's on the website. I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. And by all means, get in touch. Book a chat with us. My diary is accessible. You can just book a chat. We offer a wide variety of different elevations packages, fixed price packages for one space to a whole home. You can choose what you need. I certainly hope that today's episode has given you really good insight in your mind about, wow, I see now that there are so many things that are taken into consideration in the internal elevation stage that can't possibly be dealt with at floor plan stage. And I do say floor plan's king. It is king. But the next step is your internal elevations. So read the blog. There's actually examples on the blog as well around, it shows you what internal elevations are. And so I will love you and leave you as always. Please leave a review. I'm getting some great emails from people saying how much I love the podcast, but it would be so lovely for you to leave a review as well, because it is relatively new. And when you leave a review, it allows other people to be able to find us as well. And one day, maybe I'd love to be in the top 10 for renovations and new builds. Can't get there without a review. So please, that would be so lovely for you to do that for me. Okay, I will be here next week, as on Wednesday, as always, with the next episode of Kitchen Design Essentials season on the Your Forever Home podcast. Bye for now. Now I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to do now is show you some elevations so that you can actually see what the difference is. So this is actually an elevation of a kitchen that we've designed. Everything here is our own work. So this is actually a kitchen that it basically has the pantry combined. And what you'll see here is we're able to go into the detail around, because this is all one wall, we could actually go into detail about how we're going to create a divider without it being a door between the living room and the kitchen. And so we came up with this whole plan of having this bookcase. It's going to be in a different material. It's going to have a beautiful feature wallpaper. We had to liaise with the architect because the window was in a place that meant that the sink and the tap were not going to be centered on the window. Would that drive you crazy? That would drive me crazy. So we just had to move the window 20 centimeters. Again, we're liaising with the architect on behalf of the client to get that sorted out. It also meant, in conversation and consultation with the client, that we really got into the fact that she wasn't going to be a fan of having a window as a splashback. She didn't want all the cleaning. And she had this beautiful tile that we sourced for her, and she really wanted it in her kitchen. So that was going to kill two birds with one stone. Less cleaning, and she had this beautiful feature. So we wanted to make sure that the oven was centered on that splashback. The architect actually came back and said, oh no, we need to have these drawers the same. Well, there's actually a reason for that. We've thought about that in a different way. And we definitely want to have the stove centered on the splashback. We also made a conscious decision not to have any power points in the splashback because it is such a beautiful feature. And so we ensured that on these plans, it's denoted that there's going to be a pop-up GPO here rather than it being on the splashback. We knew from the deep dive analysis that we did with this client that she wanted to have her breakfast setup area here. So we made sure there was lots of power points there for her coffee machine, toaster, kettle, and then we also made sure that there were GPOs denoted on here, power points for laptops being used at island benches. She's got another PowerPoint here so that she can use her appliances on the island bench. We also then created a bar that with retractable doors here. The architect had a freezer here, and we said, well, we can put the freezer in the pantry. Why don't we make this a beautiful bar area? So there's lots of things that, came into conversation that is just, touching, totally skimming the surface about the sorts of things that we did. But there was great analysis about what sort of bin waste system did she want, how many bins did she need, and how did she want them to actually work. So lots and lots of detail there. The next one I wanted to show you is one where I talked about just now around the extent of the cabinetry and how it affected the window. And this is actually that kitchen. So before we actually had done the joinery design, this kitchen was off center. It was also really big. And so what it meant was that in this kitchen, she was going to end up with stumpy cabinets that were not only going to look really wrong, but they were not going to give her then good storage either. So what we did in consultation with the architect is we, requested, was it possible for us to make that window shorter and longer and balanced and centered on this cabinetry? No problem. Fantastic. She also explained why we couldn't have it running end to end, the window, which was our first preference. Because there are structural elements here. No problem. What's the next thing that we can do? So we're talking and liaising with the architects on the client's behalf. And of course, the client's going to understand what's going on. but it saves them all that nitty gritty and trying to understand what can be done. We're doing that for them. Again, great consultation about how many cupboards, how many drawers, where were things going to be stored. When we actually send back our joinery design, we actually, in blue, we actually show all the things that are going to be stored. So we can really show the client, this is the thinking that we've gone into. This is where we think these are going to go. This is going to go. And of course, it's not set in stone. You put in your kitchen what you want to put in your kitchen, but at least it gives you an idea around this is where we can store things, and this is how it's going to work. The other thing that happened on this kitchen is the architect actually had this servery window at 850 and standard benchtop to height is 900. So we needed to go back to her to make sure that this window was actually at the right level and wasn't going to be lower than the bench, which was not going to be possible anyway. We've got another client who they are really tall, and so they actually want their bench tops higher. No problem. We'll make them 930 instead of 900. So these are all the things that are going to come out in the joinery design that's not going to happen in the, that's not going to be shown in the floor plan. I want to show you a case study. This is a client, live client, and they actually came to us at frame stage, and this is what the floor plan was. So this is their kitchen. Okay, builder, build me this kitchen. We know there's a bench top. We know that the sink's going here above the window. We know that the stove is going there. What's happening with all this other stuff? So what ended up happening, I actually went on site to this home at frame stage. The plaster wasn't on, but the things had been roughed in. The gas and the electricity had been roughed in. And we've got a pantry down here and this big thoroughfare here. And just in that on-site meeting, we knocked it on its head and they weren't happy with it. There's big cabinetry here. It was blocked in. It didn't feel right. It's just not right. But of course, I'm not a designer. I don't know how to fix this. So I came up with a few ideas on site about how this could work. And they felt that it was enough to instruct the cabinet maker. And this is what the cabinet maker came back with. Now, this is the cabinet maker, I suppose, working with the instruction that he had, but again, no drawings about what he had to build and trying to interpret how it was going to work better. And, you know, he's got all the measurements. But as a client, I mean, as a designer, I understand these drawings, but as a client, would you? There's lots of numbers here because he's representing how many doors and the widths of them all. And they're really cabinetry drawings, but can you really see what you're going to get in that kitchen? I can't. And as a client, I wouldn't be able to look at that and say, yeah, I know what I'm getting. I'm really happy with that. Yeah, I can see where all the cupboards are. Again, it's not really representative of what it could be. So in the end, they said, it's not right. Can you design this kitchen, please? And this is what we did. We came up with a floor plan. We came up with utilising the framing out of this that was going to be the pantry, and we created something else. And this is what we'd explained to them on site, but it just, they needed detailed drawings to show the cabinet maker exactly what was going to happen. So we didn't have to reframe anything. We worked with the framing that had been done. Of course, we had to work super fast because this was, you know, already being constructed. The framing was there, the roughing in was there. But she was really unhappy with this big, massive wall here that meant that you couldn't see into the pantry, and the fact that the fridge was in, sorry, you couldn't see into the kitchen, and the fridge was sort of stuck in the corner here with these bits of sort of add-on cabinetry that didn't really have any function. So we utilised the depth of this cupboard to put the fridge in. We made the bench top the other way around, the island bench. She got some seating in here, so now it's actually dual functional. This is a big feature now. She's got heaps and heaps of drawers in here. Then we made this nook here a proper cabinetry. We've got appliances in here. She's got a built-in wall oven, which is what she wanted, but it was over here, which means it was blocking the view. It was just too caved in. The dishwasher is in line with the sink, and then she's got overhead cupboards here, but it's very open. She's got open shelving to really give that sense of space. I think the big win is a utilisation of this space rather than it just being cabinetry to fill the space. The thinking's gone in here, but the big win is just turning this island bench around and making it a big feature. And they've got this secondary area to dine. It's not only just a breakfast bar, but it's also, you could easily dine here, and their dining room is actually in another location. So where's the gold? The gold is the fact that they can see exactly where her cookbooks are going. She's a huge cook. Where am I going to put my cookbooks? Where am I going to put all our pantry provisions? Where's my microwave going? We even went into such detail with her to talk about, the depth and the width of their microwave. They've actually decided to buy a different microwave because they realised design impact of us designing around the current microwave and what the downside was going to be. And they said, no, that's too big a compromise. We'll buy a different microwave. So everything has got a place now. She's not going into this design. The builder knows what he's doing. The cabinet maker knows what he's doing. But more importantly, our client can see how their kitchen is going to work. How happy? Really happy. Because this put the design on its head and the thinking went in here. And, they caught it late, but they caught it just in time. And so it just means that they're going to walk into this house when it's finished and they know that this kitchen is going to meet their functionality requirements. I just want to quickly show you some bathroom elevations, just so that you can see that not only are we looking at the floor plan layout, so yeah, the floor plan from the architect will sort of show, but we go into the detail of where's the basin going, the handtail rail, where's everything going to be denoted, how big is the mirror, how far off the floor are the floating cabinets, the tile extent, where's the mirror going. All these sorts of things are detailed in these drawings. And here's some others here. The tiling extent, yes, it's in the shower, but it's not in this other space. Are we having drawers or are we having cupboards? So where's the towel rails going? So you can see here, you wouldn't get this on a floor plan. So I hope that's giving you some really good information and giving you a really good understanding about why internal elevations are so important to your forever home. Bye for now.